From the massive increase in skyscrapers to house humanity's growing population, to how our obsession with these megastructures will slow the Earth down, here's how super tall skyscrapers might destabilize the Earth's rotation. One thing's for sure, we're gonna need a lot more skyscrapers as our population increases, because as of October 2023, we're already at around 8.1 billion humans. Just think about that for a second. In the late 90s, there were around 6.5 billion people in the world. And since then, another 1.5 billion have been born. Now, all these new people are gonna need somewhere to live, and expanding cities outwards isn't the best approach. It can lead to something called urban sprawl, which is disastrous to the planet and makes for inaccessible cities with low quality of life. The best way to plan for the future is to build upwards, and that's where skyscrapers enter the equation. According to many experts, around 6 billion people will be living in cities by 2050. Which is why so many new skyscrapers are popping up in urban locations. The Council on Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat has two labels for skyscrapers. For starters, super tall structures are any buildings that rise more than 300 meters or 984 feet above the Earth's surface. As for the second group, they're called megatall buildings, and they need to be at least 600 meters high, which is about 1,968 feet. Just for context, any natural landmass that's over 2,000 feet tall is classified as a mountain, at least according to the UK government, so megatall structures are basically mountains right in the middle of cities. That's pretty dang tall, and there are 4 buildings in the world that fit the bill. The Burj Khalifa in Dubai is the tallest of them all, towering 2,700 feet over the surrounding area, which is taller than dozens of mountains that anyone would be proud to summit. The thing is, architects are only getting started. Over in Saudi Arabia, the Jeddah Tower will reach an incredible 3,300 feet once it's completed. And Dubai is working on a new project called the Creek Tower, which will reach similar heights. There's no telling how tall skyscrapers will get in the future, and a lot of architects predict that 3,200-foot tall buildings will become the norm in the next few decades. This raises an interesting question. How will these megatall structures affect the Earth? Well, physicists revealed something no one could have expected. They might alter the Earth's rotation. To be fair, everything affects the Earth's rotation in some way, even just sticking your arms out or standing on your tiptoes. It's just that these changes are so minor that they don't really make a difference. But with skyscrapers, we're talking about changes that are orders of magnitude more significant. Okay, we're about to get a little scientific here, but I'm gonna try to make it as simple as I can. Basically, the rotation of any object depends on how its mass is distributed. A perfect sphere, like a cue ball for example, doesn't have anything on the surface changing its rotation, so it'll spin around as fast as it can. Now, the Earth is not a perfect sphere. It actually has a pretty rough surface with plenty of mountains, valleys, and whatnot changing the way it rotates, because they add more mass away from the center of the object. Humans are starting to add even more towers to the surface, and sooner or later, they're going to have an effect. Each skyscraper we build, especially those super tall ones, add mass far from the center, which slows the rotation down. Remember, we already have buildings that are taller than some mountains, and pretty soon, 3,000-foot and even 4,000-foot skyscrapers will be everywhere. When you add all that mass up, the Earth will rotate more and more slowly, and at some point, it'll impact the entire planet. Here's another way to look at it. Ever seen a figure skater on the ice? They can make themselves spin faster by tucking their arms in, but if they stretch their arms out, they slow down. Now imagine hundreds of arms extending out of their bodies. That's gonna lead to a massive slowdown, which is just what'll happen to the Earth in the future. Even if we don't feel the planet's rotation slowing, it'll impact our lives in all sorts of ways. For one thing, it could lead to widespread climate change, because each side of the planet would absorb more of the sun's rays. We're already experiencing human-induced climate change all around the world, and if megatall structures are added to the mix, the speed of climate change could go up drastically. Weather patterns would change with longer, hotter summers and bitterly cold winters, and the polar ice caps would melt a lot faster too. That'll lead to the oceans getting less salty, which might not sound like a bad thing at first, but you've got to understand life under the ocean needs a certain level of salt to survive. Countless species of fish and other marine life will go extinct at an unprecedented rate, And since the planet is one big ecosystem, the effects of this extinction will be felt up the food chain. This doesn't just mean we'll run out of fish to eat, it'll devastate the ocean floor, potentially leaving it completely barren. I haven't even gotten to the worst part yet. The sea levels will rise. This is another major impact of climate change that's put coastal communities in jeopardy, and a slowdown in the Earth's rotation will kick it into high gear. Throughout human history, the most successful settlements always popped up along the coast. In the modern age, cities next to the ocean serve as important trading hubs. But they'll all be underwater in a matter of decades if the polar ice caps keep melting. And if they melt any faster, billions of people would be displaced before we know what's happening. All of this sounds pretty bad, but if scientists are right about skyscrapers destabilizing the Earth's rotation, we might be in for a whole new threat that no one could have predicted. You see, the Earth's rotation is fastest around the equator, but it relies on momentum to maintain its pace. So, what do you think will happen if the momentum decreases? Catastrophe, that's what. You see, the equator might shift in the event of a slowdown, and there's no way to predict its new location. However, we have a good idea of what might happen after an equatorial shift. So current wind patterns bring humid air to forests, right? This gives them just what they need to become lush, green wonderlands. But an equatorial shift will change these wind patterns. All of a sudden, the forests of the world won't get as much rainfall as they used to, and it won't be long before they turn into deserts. To make things worse, countries along the equator will experience immense immediate climate change. Their tropical weather will disappear, and they'll experience something like a new ice age. Finally, it's time to discuss the most destructive consequence of all. As the Earth slows, changes in seismic activity will lead to earthquakes that can level cities. In case you don't know, the Earth's surface is made up of these big pieces called tectonic plates. They're always on the move, and if two of them crash into each other, it causes an earthquake. Now, if the Earth's rotation slows, the shift in momentum will change the movement of tectonic plates as well. They'll hit each other more often, and the impact will be way harder. The result? The worst earthquakes we've ever seen. Like, I'm talking apocalyptic stuff, the kind that can flatten cities and end civilization as we know it. So, does this mean we should stop building skyscrapers? Honestly, I've been talking about the absolute worst-case scenario so far. All of these things could happen if hundreds of skyscrapers many miles high cover our planet, but that probably won't be the case. It'll just take too much mass and energy, and skyscrapers are expensive enough as it is. Besides, there's already an enormous object that affects our gravity: the moon. Unless we're able to build skyscrapers that weigh as much as the moon, I doubt we'll have to worry anytime soon. But there's one thing we can't deny. Our obsession with megastructures will slow the Earth down, even if the effect isn't strong enough to notice. Scientific research has revealed that the Earth already has slowed down over millions of years. Just like how climate change was sped up by human activity and caused unforeseen disasters, artificially increasing the slowdown of our planet's rotation could lead to unpredictable consequences as well. It's not just skyscrapers either, because the Three Gorges Dam in China slowed the Earth's orbit by 0.06 seconds, and the 2004 earthquake in the Indian Ocean caused a 0.03 second slowdown. The point is, we need to constantly think about how our actions impact the world. So from the way our megastructure obsession will slow the Earth's orbit, to the inevitable increase in skyscrapers as humanity's population grows, this was all you needed to know about supertall skyscrapers and how they might destabilize the Earth. Also, if you want to see stories about other mega projects, watch one of these videos right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.